One. F it up. Oh, I'm in the groove. Back in the mix. Check yourself. Oh, feel that healing beat. All right, heal up. Heal up. Heal up. Heal up. Healing boost. Oh, I like the sound of that. Ooh, I must have this track on repeat. Repeat. Oh, you hear that? You hear that? Oh, let's break it down. Oh, let's break it down. Oh, let's break it. Break it. Break it down. Let's drop the beat. Beat. Let's get you healed up. Let's get you healed up. Healed up. Yeah. Healed up. Yeah, let's move it, people. Yeah, let's move it, people. Yeah, let's pick it up. Lucio coming at you. Coming at you. Yeah, time to heal up. Oh, turn it up. Turn it up. Turn it up. Turn it up in my headphones. My headphones. Turn it up in my headphones. Audio medic. Audio medic. Audio medic. Move to the beat. Boost. Boost. Oh, this is my jam. Time to accelerate. All right, it's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. F it up. Oh, I'm in the groove. Back in the mix. Check yourself. Oh, feel that healing beat. All right, heal up. Heal up. Heal up. Heal up. Healing boost. Oh, I like the sound of that. Ooh, I must have this track on repeat. Repeat. Oh, you hear that? You hear that? Oh, let's break it down. Oh, let's break it down. Oh, let's break it. Break it. Break it down. Let's drop the beat. Yeah. Healed. Healed up. Yeah, let's move it, people. Yeah, let's move it, people. Yeah, let's pick it up. Lucio coming at you. Coming at you. Yeah, time to heal up. Oh, turn it up. Up. Turn it up. Turn it up. Turn it up in my headphones. My headphones. Turn it up in my headphones. Audio medic. Audio medic. Audio medic. Move to the beat. Boost. Oh, this is my jam. Time to accelerate.
And we are live, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. It's another episode of Off the Wall, powered by CGL Console Gaming League. It's your boy, Dazzle167, back at it again. And today we have a very special guest. His name is Tracertracer69. We have him over here. He's going to be talking to us about a lot of stuff. And he's showing off. He's showing off already. We already got questions in the chat. He's already showing off. All right. How you doing, man? How you doing today?
I'm doing really well. It's a nice day out, 70 degrees and sunny. So
yeah, nice. That's awesome, dude. Well, listen, before we start with all the questions and stuff like that, let's talk about your rank and stuff. I always ask people about the rank just to flex a little bit, flex your muscle. Tell us a little bit about your rank and how long you've been playing and stuff like that.
okay, so I've been playing Overwatch since I think season 3 is when I picked up the game. I had a bunch of IRL friends. My best friend wanted me to get the game, and so I picked it up. Season 7, I think, was my first season that I got top 500. Coincidentally, that was when I got my Zim. So,
yeah,
and everything that all my peaks and everything are with the mouse and keyboard. So I'm cheating a little bit, but season 13, I peaked at 4629. And ever since then, I've been right around 43, 44, with an account around 45, 46. So
nice. There you go. Well, let's go way back into the past, and let's talk about your origins in video games. So let's talk about what platform you start playing, and what type of games did you play before Overwatch?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I started with the PS2. I had a PS2. My family had a PS2, and I didn't start with shooters. I had DDR, if you remember Dance Dance Revolution.
Okay.
I had Dance Dance. I played some Dance Dance. Played, what else was it? Guitar Hero. Guitar Hero was there. And then my cousin, he had all the shooters, so played some Medal of Honor. When I got a Xbox for myself, I had Battlefield. Battlefield was my first shooter that I played. And then moved to Black Ops, and then Gears of War. Gears of War was a huge step for me, because I guess that's where I really in Gears, when you die like a bloody death, and
you get splattered all over the ring.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to die.
No.
So that was when I first really wanted to get good at a game.
Yeah.
And then after that, when Gears 4 came out, is when around the same time I got over. So.
You know what's the worst part about Gears is like when people have the audacity to come by you and tag you with a grenade. That's really the biggest BM in probably in a lot of video games that I've seen so far, because he has the audacity to come up to you shotgun close. He could just shotgun you, and instead he just throws a little grenade on your back.
It's a rough death, but it's always funny when you do it to somebody. It's clip-worthy sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. It's the biggest BM. And when you do it, it's just like asserting a little bit of dominance.
Yeah, I'm alpha.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
So tell me about like when you started playing Overwatch. What led you to play Overwatch, and what was some of the first characters you started playing?
Yeah, so I mean, I again, I was like season two is when my friend wanted me to get the game, and it took me. I was grinding Gears 4,
Mm-hmm.
and he finally was like, just try one game. So I was like, okay, fine. Oh, this guy has a bow and arrow. That's kind of sick. I want to use that. So I
Okay.
popped off on Hanzo and quick play. Um, and that's what got, I guess I was like, oh, this game's kind of fun. It's not that confusing because heard about all the abilities, and I was like, oh, I don't know about that. But I got into it. I started playing Lucio actually, and he was like, everybody always loves a Lucio. You should just
Yeah.
keep playing Lucio. Like, just keep playing him. You'll be fine. Like, everyone will love you. And I was like, oh, okay, fine. I'll play Lucio. I placed like gold and then worked my way up from there and started playing some Zen. But I think my favorite heroes were Tracer and Zarya for a while, and then I think season 13 I think is when I actually picked up Diva, and that's when I hit my highest peak so far. So I think Diva is probably my favorite hero. She can just hard carry games, and she has like an insanely high skill ceiling.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, definitely. And she went through a lot of different reworks as well
yeah.
too. So like, if you played from early seasons, I mean, it's been huge changes all throughout the entirety of Overwatch. So
Yep.
absolutely. So all right, so let me ask you this. Before we move on to other topics, so you mentioned how you got an M&K, and then all of a sudden you started climbing a little bit more. Obviously, there was a correlation there between that. What was it specifically like? Was it just like the elevation of being able to play with a mouse and keyboard that got you to get a little higher, or did you just happen to also do other things that in combination with the mouse and keyboard were able to like grind comp a little bit more? Like how did that go about?
Yeah, so I mean, I think one of the biggest things for that was I was already about like a 35, 36 player. I just had terrible aim, I guess.
Mm,
And by terrible, I mean like really bad. Um, and so when I was like a 36 player, I just like started picking up Zarya and Tracer and everything. And when I got my mouse, I was kind of like, I just spent, well, my friend gave it to me for like $60, which is a really good deal on a
yeah,
Zim. If you know prices for Zims, it's a good deal. So I was like,
yeah,
oh, well, I just spent 60, $70 on a mouse. Like I should probably like actually try to grind this game. So I started watching a lot of Hard Blue streams, a lot of Kabaji streams, and just kind of trying to learn. Like this was all through season 7. That's back when seasons were a little bit longer. Um,
yeah, yeah.
and so I was able to go from. I actually, when I first got my mouse and keyboard, I didn't realize you were supposed to have aim assist on because if
Okay.
you don't have aim assist, it's impossible to play the game. Like it's completely different from going from Xbox to like PC with a mouse, just because it's not raw input. So like you'll try to track somebody smoothly, and your mouse will literally just go like this across the screen. Like
Yeah.
you can't do it. Um, and so I turned my aim assist up, and then I was like, oh wow, this is easier. But I was still climbing even without aim assist somehow. Um, and I don't know. I just think my game sense also went up a lot just because I was grinding, watching like the pro players play and everything.
Sure.
Um, and so I think I got, uh, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I just think I improved a lot in that season. So, and there are a lot of MNKs that are stuck in like platinum, diamond. They can't get out
Yeah.
of those ranks with an MNK. Like I was with some guy in quick play, and he was like, "Oh wow, you guys are like really really good." I was like, "Yeah, like that'll happen. Like you play the game a lot." And he was like, "Don't judge me, but like I mouse and keyboard," and he was like 2,800, and he was a silver border. Like
Yeah, yeah. I mean that obviously you can have a mouse and keyboard, but that doesn't give you an instant, raise in rank. I mean, although it should, because I think that like the gap between controller and MNK is high. Like there is a huge gap between somebody who does play controller and somebody who plays MNK.
Hmm.
Just mainly because it's so much quicker on MNK, right? You can flick, you could do a lot of other stuff that you can't really do with the controller, and even some of the best people who are on the controller might have a difficulty against somebody who is MNK. But let me ask you this: you were talking about how you played Gears of War for a while, and um, you came into Overwatch, and eventually you moved to MNK. Now, you obviously played some of these games on controller. Was it just Overwatch that you felt that your controller abilities weren't up to par to where you wanted it to be, or did you do that with other games previous to that?
No, I didn't own a M&K or anything. It was just more of the opportunity that came up that one of my friends that uh, one the guy who got me into the game was really close friends with this whole group of people, and they got me to. He was like, "Oh, you want this mouse and keyboard? It way more like it's more fun basically to play with a keyboard and mouse." And I was like, "Oh, like I eventually want to get a PC. Like maybe this will help me kind of transition."
Oh, sure. I mean,
I didn't.
I'm sure it does help a lot. I mean, especially because I mean, I played PC Overwatch, and the mouse isn't too hard, but the keyboard aspect for me personally is kind of hard to get used to.
Yeah.
It's probably also because I'm old, so for me, it's like it's hard to to teach an old
Transition.
dog new tricks, but
Yeah.
but still, like I get the benefit of it. All right, well let's move on to let's move on to like the draft tournament, because I
Okay.
think this is such an amazing idea, and I've talked to people on Twitter about this previously before your announcement, and obviously it's not a new idea. You've got you guys have done this before in the past, and it's been a success and stuff like that. But you know tell us a little bit about the tournament itself. What made you do the the what made you come up with the tournament?
Yeah, so I wanted to have a tournament that, was run by the community, I guess, so targeted for the community, not so much like I didn't want a prize pool. I just wanted people to have fun kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so I was talking to Delir a little bit about it, and he had an idea like, oh, like maybe a draft tournament or something. And he didn't really have much time to commit to it. And I was like, I can run with this idea. I can milk it and everything. And so we came up with a draft tournament, and I think the biggest thing was I didn't want teams to be overpowered or anything. And I think that was a big problem for all the tournaments that happened before was, they had one team that just ran through everybody else, and it just wasn't fun for like everybody would play a game and then lose and then be like, oh well, this sucks, and they'd be out of the tournament or whatever it is. Um, but but yeah, so I just wanted a tournament where everybody was pretty much equal. Um, and yeah.
And I think that's a really interesting point, because in a lot of sports leagues and stuff like that, there's a draft, obviously, and it enables teams to kind of balance each other out, right? I mean,
Hmm.
obviously there's also caps as well, so that you can cap something like salary wise, but the draft enables you to get a good balance of players out of a pool of players that you can grab. And I think that for Overwatch specifically, especially console, right? Because there's a lot of great players out there, but being able to kind of steal good players and take over different people who might
Hmm.
have been eyeing out from some of their friends, that might be a really good opportunity to build and kind of like also deflect some of the good players from other teams, right? So
Yep.
it definitely allows things to be balanced out for sure, which is one of the things I always liked about draft tournaments, and I think just drafting in general. Well, I think everybody who's talked about the tournament in the past, especially like recently on Twitter after the announcements, people are dying to know like what's gonna be who are gonna be the captains, because obviously for those of you who don't know, you mentioned that you have some people who are gonna select uh captains specifically for the tournament, which by the way,
Right.
let's look at I'm gonna go ahead and show the original announcement that we had um,
Okay.
right here. So right here we can see the original announcement, and it says it talks about like having the captain selection. Um, and you say that you'll have 8 total captains, right? So 8 teams in
Correct.
general, right?
Yep.
And so how many captains are you guys gonna choose?
We're gonna be doing five. We were gonna pick 5 captains, and then the community is gonna be able to pick 3
Three captains, okay.
out of the rest that
And
that
so
we
does the
pick.
community have to pick? Because obviously you mentioned in the original announcement that the captains have to be 4,500 or above. So is the
Mhm.
community also going to pick captains who under that standard? So that standard's also going to be applied.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So they're
So yeah.
and so I guess the big question is, have you gone through the process of selecting some of those captains already?
I think right now there are 2 candidates or people that wanted to be captains that personally I thought they would make good captains, and that would be Vinny, who I think everybody know who Vinny is. He won one of the earlier tournaments, one of the first 2. He played in, I don't know if he played in both of them, but I think he definitely played in one and won one of them. Um, and so I think he has like the leadership ability, and he has the name behind him to definitely make him a good captain, as well as Sham. And I think everybody in the community also knows Sham. He's quite the Twitter personality. He's one of the West Coasters, and there's the funny saying that pretty much everyone has, is that no Sham, no win, because Sham
Rev it
calls
up!
everything out. He shock calls everything. He tells his team what to do, and he's a hard carry. And so I think that no matter what team he's on, he'll still be able to have that, I guess, game sense and everything combined, that he'll be able to help a team out, and he knows the community. So I think he would be a good cap.
Definitely people who are well vested inside the community, and I think that's really what it takes too, right? You have to know the person who drafts has got to be somebody who understands these players that are already in the here, they're already in the draft pool. I think that's why in a lot of the sports leagues that already exist, the NBA, the NFL, and stuff like that, especially like the NBA, I feel like a lot of the people who have become general managers used to be players, people like Magic Johnson and Larry
Right.
Bird, and a lot of those people who they know basketball, they know who to pick, they know what they like, and I think it's the same thing for Overwatch, right? A lot of these people who are really good players, they know how to build teams, they know who to pick and stuff like that. So it'll definitely be interesting. So far you said we have Sham and we have Vinny, right?
Yep. Those are
Okay,
those are the only 2 that I have looked at and been like, yep, those are.
clear
I'm,
cut, yeah.
yeah, I'm definitely going to be pulling for them when it comes down to have the conversation with all the people about it.
Absolutely. Cool. Well, then that's great. Have you had any struggle trying to find more captains to kind of step up, or is it something where there's been a few, but you want to be a little more selective?
I mean, right now, I think there are 15 or 16 people that
Okay.
have over 4,500 peaks that are currently like 43, 4,400, that are interested in being captains. Hopes applied within the first like minute and a half of the thing being up, saying he wanted to be a captain.
Gotcha.
Um, and there's just been plenty of other people that have expressed interest in being captains. I like joked that like whatever team wins or something, I'll try to find get a picture of Tensa and have him sign it or something for the team captain as a joke. But I don't know how likely that is to happen. Um, but I mean, people are interested in being captains. And I don't know. I'm excited for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot to say about who's going to be captaining a lot of these teams and how they're gonna build based on those. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, absolutely. I think that's gonna be really interesting. I think that obviously whoever's going to captain is going to build a team based on what they like to see, and they're gonna have like their kind of like their culture or whatever it is that they like to do, and they're gonna
Right.
try to get them on board with that. So I think that's gonna be pretty fun to see. Now let's talk about streaming because how are people going to be able to watch this? Do you have casters in mind? Is the draft itself going to be streamed?
Yeah, so we have two people that we picked a while ago. Scary Dragons, just because they're two people that have they've been at the top of the leaderboards. I'm 99% sure that, well, Scary Dragons definitely was top 10, and Blood Dust has finished top 10 multiple times. Um, and I think they're just two people that are very good at the game. They have a nice community. Blood Dust wanted to try some things out with his stream, um, and yeah, I just think that they'll be able to talk about the game and get excited about the game. Instead of just be like, oh, someone just deflected a grab. It's like, oh my god, he deflected like a big play, big play. Like
Yeah.
bring excitement. They have both have personalities, so I just think um, they deserve to be able to stream and cast the games.
Yeah, that'll definitely be fun to watch. I also think that because they're really good streamers, they'll be able to kind of bring a level of production that is going to be great. I think
Yep.
just being able to watch that is going to be awesome. What about the draft itself? How is that going to be streamed? Because obviously that's something that you can't really have, like, there's no gameplay involved in the draft itself.
Hmm.
And a lot of other drafts have like, you know, certain graphics that show, oh, this player that. How are you guys intending to do that?
So right now the plan is either having like an Xbox party or getting everyone in a Discord call, and then um having basically like the teams and like all the picks that they have, like round one, round two, round three, round four, round five, whatever it is. I think we're gonna do 6 or 7 round on stream. And Where was I going with that? Um, and so yeah, you'll just be able to watch as people get drafted. You'll be able to see who drafts who and when.
And
Um,
how do you represent that visually? Like how are people going to be able to see, like, on a stream? Oh, that you see that person getting picked. Like how do you represent that visually?
yeah, it's just there's like the full draft list, and then we're gonna have after every round, you'll be able to see, okay, this person picked up, you know, uh, Immortal Ali got picked up by Vinny, for example. Like
Mm-hmm.
it just Plums got picked up by Sham, kind of like just stuff like that, where you're able to see this person got picked up by this person. This is their role and all that. And I think that's something that we didn't do very well last time, just because the captains didn't know, okay, well, who got picked, because we didn't have a way to like highlight a name saying, okay, this person has already been picked. So like there are
Gotcha.
like three people trying to pick up Gerard. Um, but yeah.
Gotcha. Well, that sounds interesting. I really, I'm looking forward to seeing how it's going to work. I think part of the excitement is going to be, people looking at, who's got who so far, and kind of like the analysis behind the pick, and like, oh well, Vinny went with this person, and how is this person gonna fit into the team, and blah. I think that's gonna be an awesome way of representing the draft. So I'm really excited about that. That sounds like a lot of fun. Um, well, let's talk about past tournaments. You mentioned how the draft wasn't really well represented before in the past. So tell us a little bit about how the draft tournament started in the past, and how it's come to where it is now. Like what innovations has been going on, and.
Yeah. I think the biggest change so far has been I realized that you can use like Google Sheets and make like a form, or like Google Forms, I think is what it's called. And it sends and takes all the answers and puts it into a spreadsheet. And then so I can just take that spreadsheet and see everybody's response. And I'm able to send that to the captains or whoever wants to see it. And I'm able to. One of the biggest things also was that, because before I just had a thing on Twitter where I said, just like this if you want to be entered in the tournament, and then I had to do, like, by myself, I had to go and figure out, okay, well, this person plays this person does this, but this is just what we're doing this time is a lot easier, I guess. Um, and it looks a lot nicer because everyone fills out the same thing, the same form, everyone checks the same boxes. I mean, it's different boxes if you're main support, off support, all that. but it also makes it a lot easier for captains because you're not looking, okay, well, who plays Reinhardt, who's able to flex to Reinhardt if you need it. But the way we have it set up this time is that you can just check off whatever heroes you're comfortable at flexing to, or what heroes you can play at whatever SR you're currently at. And so I think that's the biggest change. Overall, I've just instead of working with just me or just me and Delir, I reached out to a few people from the community that helped with previous tournaments that I wanted to work with, and we've all just been able to talk about the tournament and figure out, okay, well, this is what worked in past tournaments. This isn't what worked in past tournaments, and we're just kind of trying to figure out a great tournament that's very well organized, that's run completely by the community. So
yeah, and I think that's one of the best part about it is that, like, it's sort of like it's definitely very grassroots, by the players for the players type of deal, and those are very fun to watch and play. And I think that there's a lot of good community output that goes into this that allows people to watch good games. So yeah, I mean, I think that's an awesome idea. I think at the beginning of, like, because you mentioned you did this in the past. It wasn't until recently where there's been a lot more tournaments showing up and a lot more stuff. Before it felt like a lot of the tournament scene for console Overwatch was a bit stale and stuff like that. Take us to the first tournament that you guys started out, and what made you start that first one, and how was that first tournament like?
yes, so the first tournament was there was a pretty good turnout. I think there were like 90 people that liked it,
Wow.
the tweet, that wanted to participate in it. And everyone was really excited about it because I don't think there were many tournaments around that time. It was like last summer or something. There really weren't many tournaments going on then. And everyone was kind of getting tired of the game. They didn't really want to play. I think that's around when Fortnite was really popping off. And so not many people were really playing. But I wanted to bring back Overwatch, and I wanted to make sure people loved the game again. And I thought the draft tournament would be a fun idea. So we ran with it, and everyone loved it. There was people complained a little bit about the organization of it. I was like, yep, trust me, I know. This is my first time doing it. Don't but overall, like, everyone really liked how the tournament, like the idea of the tournament, they just little help with the execution. And I think that's what is going to go well with this one.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously there's a lot of parts of the tournament where people don't understand that it goes so much into organizing it,
Yeah.
and you don't really know what a problem is going to be until the problem occurs in
Yep.
the tournament. So, and then obviously when the next time you do it, it's like, all right, well, last time this is what happened, so let's just correct.
Yep.
So it's a trial and error thing, and I think some people will sometimes get frustrated at different organizations and being like, oh, well, why didn't they do this? And it was like,
Yeah.
well, that wasn't so clear when we were thinking
Yeah.
about the tournament.
Yep.
So I think people sometimes players don't realize that there isn't that level of, like, people are just trying to do their best, right?
Yep. Hindsight is always 2020. So
Exactly. Let's talk about some of the details about the tournament itself,
okay.
and some of the dates. So captain selection and player submission closes on Friday, the 22nd. I believe that's obviously next week at around midnight, correct?
Yes.
Okay,
I
so
think the time should be on there. Give me one second. I'll pull it up as well. But you can keep going.
perfect. Okay, so captain poll closes around Wednesday, the 27th. So I'm assuming that means, like, the captain poll for the people who get the community that gets to select the captain, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So it would be the 22nd would be when we open it up, and like we end up choosing. Okay, these people are going to be the captains we're picking. Now these are the or like this is your choice for the captains that you guys can pick.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have, I think, the weekend and then up until Wednesday to to pick their whatever the community represented captains are.
Perfect, perfect. Before we continue on with the list, I want to give a shout out to Catspeak, who just subscribed. Big shout outs to Catspeak over there with the Twitch Prime sub. Thank you very much, boy. All right, so let's talk about the timeline here, because obviously we got the captain selection and then player submission close. So you guys select the captain by the 22nd, or that's when the submission closed. So when can we expect the selection to be solidified? Probably like that weekend, or is it
we would probably be most likely announcing it I would say Wednesday night.
Okay.
Is when we would, Wednesday or Thursday by midday is when we would announce all the captains.
Okay, because obviously you'll have your selection, but as well as you're gonna want to wait for the captain poll to close as well, so that you guys can get an idea of like what all of the captains are gonna be, right?
Yep.
All right, so we can probably expect to see Twitter campaigns out there for different captains who might want to be like, "Hey, community, I want to be your captain."
Yep. Hopefully.
I think that'll be fun to watch as well. I think there's gonna be a lot of. I hope to see a lot of that on Twitter. A lot of people
There's gonna be a lot of personalities coming out.
Yeah, it's like, you know what? This person needs you. I want to see those types of Uncle Sam type of.
Yeah.
That'll be awesome. All right, so then we have the poll that closes on Wednesday the 27th of this month. Then we have the draft itself Friday the 29th. 10 p.m. So that's an important day. I feel like that's probably the most anticipated one. Then we have April 12th to the 13th, 7 p.m. start. We got 7 to 11. That's going to be the time. And we got 2 games, Saturday, 2 games. All right, so we got the tournament itself for those 2 days, correct?
Yep, it's Friday, and both the regular tournament and the playoffs are going to be Friday and Saturday. A lot of people have problems.
And is this going to be like single elimination basically?
So for the games during like the regular, not regular season, but like the first weekend is just placement games kind of, and it's going to be so we know where to seed everybody. And so I think it's the top 4 teams that, have the highest map count. We're not doing it by, okay, if you win this game, 3-2, every single time you win every game 3-2, you're not going to be looked at or seeded the same versus a team that went, 3-0. Everyone plays 4 games. So it's, if everyone goes 4-0, you're not, or if one team goes 4-0 versus a team that goes 3-2, the 4-0 team's going to get seeded higher.
Gotcha.
So it's going to be based on map count.
Okay, well, that's good. That's good to know. All right, so here's another thing. Then you got, obviously, the playoffs, which is going to be on the 19th. So by then, obviously, you'll have... before I forget, the makeup games, obviously, on the 14th, which is a day after the tournament itself starts. So if anybody's missing any games, they can make up the games. That's really good. Then you got the playoffs themselves, which are the 19th. So let's talk about the rest of the announcement here. We see that captains, there's going to be 5 chosen by the council, 3 community. We talked about that a little bit. The draft itself. Now, this is important, and I want to ask, what was the thought behind this as well? So 7 minimum and 9 max. So obviously you had to come up with an actual number for players. What made you pick 7 minimum and 9 max?
So 7 minimum is because, there will be one person that can't play on your team or something. And there are teams that just go out and pick 6 people. In the past, they've just picked 6 people and be like, oh, well, this person has work. Well, like, we gave you the dates in advance kind of thing. Like, basically, it just doesn't allow people to say, like, oh, this person can't work, we can't play. By having 7 minimum, you always have that extra player. If one person misses the games or something, they can sub in. And 9 max, just because we don't want people picking up like 15 players. There was a team that did that in the past where they just drafted or picked up a lot of really good players. And I just want to make sure that every team has roughly the people of like the equal skill level, or like the same average skill level. Just to make the games really good. and I don't think a team needs more than 9 people. Yeah, the 7 minimum was just so that worst case scenario, if you're missing somebody, there's always somebody that can fill in. But even then, if 2 people can't make it, that's why we have the makeup day. We didn't want to do the tournament on Sunday just because a lot of people have church or they have to get ready for school or whatever it is, work. So we just had that day as kind of a day off. But also, if your team can play on any time at Sunday, just let us know and we can figure out a time that works Sunday.
Gotcha. So basically, because I mean, we've all seen that there's been a lot of people who compete in tournaments, and they'll get just 6 people, and if one person can't make it, and then that's it. That team has to kind of not play the game anymore, or gets disqualified for that part, or whatever the case may be. So obviously, that's very important to have that 7th person in, just at least just in case. For this, and I'm also going to be really curious on how people draft, because this is going to be, a lot of this is going to be based on who's going to pick what, how many flexes are you going to pick, how many like people dedicated to one specific role or one specific character, like how is this going to work, so this is definitely going to be interesting to see. It also says here, in the event of a player gets drafted and doesn't like a player and quits, DQ from tourney. So
Yeah.
explain to us about that.
Yeah, so there have been times in the past tournaments where somebody's just like, I don't feel like playing with this person, and then they try to get on another team, and it was a mess. But and there are some people that in like their signups are like, don't put me on a team with blank. And I thought that was pretty funny, but yeah, I mean, if you get drafted on a team, just suck it up and play.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what real players do, right? I mean, if you get drafted for a sports league and you get on a team that you don't necessarily like, I mean, I trust me, I live in Cleveland, so I know a lot of people.
Yeah.
I know a
Yeah.
lot of people who get drafted to the Browns, and I know people are like, oh my god, why?
Yeah.
So yeah, that definitely I can see that happening, and that's actually a really good rule. Is that something that you guys had obviously had difficulty in the past, and now we're like, all right, well, let's put the hammer down now.
Before I even have to deal with people saying I don't want to be on this team, like, can I still play for another? I don't even want to have to get that message, so I just put it as a rule and like, no, just go to the rule book, basically. Like, I don't know.
Nice. All right, so let's see. Another part of the line is free agents are those that didn't get picked up, can be subs for scrims/games. So explain to us a little bit about that, because do people who go into the draft, do they have the ability to only pick 7 people in the draft? Is that how that works, or how?
Yeah, so we're pretty much just gonna limit to 7 rounds of the draft. I think it kind of gets boring after that. We tried doing like
Gotcha.
8 or 9 in the previous one, and everyone was just like, I picked my sub, my 6, and I got a sub. Like, why do we need to still be here,
Gotcha.
kind of thing. So we're just gonna we're gonna do 7 rounds in the draft, and then after that, you can just basically, the captains will be able to put in, okay, we picked up this person, and yeah, so they can be your sub. You'd be able to pick up 2 more subs on top of the 7. And if you really need some that you don't want to pick them up for your team or anything, that's why we have like the free agents, who anybody who didn't get drafted, they still clearly want to play. But this tournament, I think one of the best parts of this tournament is that it's kind of elite. Like you're only getting, it's 8 teams with 6 people on it or 7 people on it. So I mean, it's not easy to get drafted. Like, most people that applied for their sending in like an application for the pool, they're like 4,200, 4,300 right now. So I mean, it's a hard tournament to get into. So the free agents, you can still get going to scrims if there's teams that are scrimming, and you want to get some practice in. So yeah.
Good. No, I think that's a great idea too, because it allows there to be something to look forward to as a player, after the draft is over, right? So once you're watching the draft and you're like, man, I didn't get picked or whatever, but
Hmm.
hey, I'll be a free agent, and maybe they'll have people on the waiver wire for me to get picked up at some point. So it gives
Yep.
a little bit of opportunity for that as well. All right, so let's talk about. We were talking about this a little earlier when we were talking about the tournament itself, but all right, so you play 4 games.
Hmm.
Map score determines seeding for playoffs. So tell us what the idea was for this, right? Why did you want to make it this way? Was it something that was successful in the past, or are you guys trying something new out?
Yeah, so we did. I think in the past we just played 3 games, and no matter what, who won the first two, I think it was if you won the first, it was best of 3. You didn't play 3 map. So most teams you just go. If you lost 2 games in a row, it sucks to suck. I mean, if you have a team that starts out poorly and you get 2-0'd, you're just out of the tournament. And I think that made it boring for a lot of people. So I wanted to do have everybody get a chance to play games. So we have you're just playing 4 maps like over how Overwatch League is set up. You play 4 maps, and based on the map score, that's how you're doing the seed. Um, so
Okay.
that's the way it is.
Is there going to be map differential in the in is that going to be taken into account? Because let's say, for example, that some of the teams that go through each other, they come up with the same type of wins, but maybe they'll have map differentials. Does that also take into account?
Um, when it's in time for seeding for playoffs, yes, but it won't really matter for the regular games.
Gotcha.
For the playoffs, if there's a team that went, they won 20 maps, lost one. There's a team that won 21 maps and lost none. And that's right on the edge of, rank 4 and 5 for the tournament. Then we're gonna put the team that has no losses in maps. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, everything's based off of your map score. Um, doesn't matter how many wins you get, as long as the map score is what matters.
Okay, and so obviously, based on this the information here, you mentioned how higher team SR gets higher seed in the event of a tie in map score. So that's something unique as well. Did you guys obviously you're gonna have to be doing some math after the draft, correct? You're gonna have to look at everybody's SR, kind of talk about like, hey, okay, this is the overall SR for this team.
Right.
um so definitely, what made you want to do that? Was it something that came across in the past that made you want to be like, okay, we're gonna have to do that for future?
I mean, honestly, they did something similar with the Lame Sauce tournament and the tournament that just happened. It was a couple $1,000 prize pool.
Mm-hmm.
And they basically did the higher SR team gets to skip the qualifications.
Yeah.
So I just said the higher SR team gets the higher seed just because it's a little bit of motivation so that you go up
Sure.
in rank and ladder. But I mean, otherwise it would just cause people to be mad that, oh well, we're the better team in ladder. Why are we getting, you know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
robbed of playoffs? So it's just something that I don't know. It made sense, I guess.
Okay, all right. Well, let's see. Next up, we see playoffs. Top 4 teams play Friday, 2 sets. Third set for the tiebreaker, and then finals, 2 sets. Third set for the tiebreaker. I think that's pretty standard stuff right there.
Hmm.
Um, so let's talk about the next line here, which just says M&K list to be made and posted the week prior to the tournament.
Yep.
Explain this a little more thoroughly.
Yeah. So M&K is probably one of the more controversial things in the community, I think. Talking about, do they have brains or are they just all aim? And
That's
they're
funny. I don't think I've heard that actually before. That's funny.
all brain, no aim. That's
Yeah.
or all aim, no brain. There it
All
is.
aim, no brain. Okay, yeah, yeah, got it.
Yeah. So that's just kind of a controversial thing. Just saying, if you have an MK, you probably don't have any game sense. I think for a lot of the time, there are people with minimal game sense, but they're able to excel so much because they have really good aim. So they're able
Sure.
to play like heroes like Widowmaker and everything. And so originally I didn't really care too much about MK. But I think that after this tournament, where this is kind of a trial run tournament of, I want I I just basically want this to be um I put all the organization into it just so I know that next time if we decide to put in money to it, I'm already gonna know, okay, well this is how I organized the last time and it worked really well. I don't want to have to say like, okay, well there's no money going into this tournament, so I'm not gonna really try that hard to keep it,
Yeah.
you know. So I'm putting everything into this one. And I was like, if I'm gonna keep that mentality going into it with everything else, I want to keep that mentality. If it's gonna be a paid tournament next time, I don't want MNKs this time. It, I'm not gonna use MNKs in the one that's paid. So I'm not gonna use it in this one. Is what I should say.
Okay, I mean, I guess that's a good rule of thumb, and I think for the most part, obviously, MNK is a very controversial thing. So even if you allowed people into the tournament that did MNK, I do think that 90 at least 90% of the community isn't MNK, right? So you'd have to still probably get a lot of flack for allowing something like that. So it's probably better to not, and at least have something like that.
It was a decision that was close to my heart. I can be honest with you there, but
I'm sure. I'm sure.
had to be me.
Okay. Well, I mean, hey, it makes a lot of sense. And um, so you mentioned, okay, so that list is going to be made. Is there any way? I mean, obviously, you guys are part of the community, and the people, yourself and everybody else who's organizing this will probably have some input. But is there is there some type of way for you guys to like really detail on, okay, this person definitely MNKs, that person has to be on the list, and I don't know about this person, like, are you guys gonna be like doing more investigations? Because I know there's people who might use MNK at some point and then go back to controller and then go back and forth. So how do you guys determine whether somebody, oh, that person for sure?
Right. For this tournament, we're not being. That's the only difference, really, I guess, with this tournament and if we're doing another one where there is a prize pool,
Mm-hmm.
is that we're not going to be too strict on people that MNK or like people that obviously MNK and are like openly say yes, I mouse and keyboard. We're gonna be like Mirama, for example. Everyone knows
Sure.
Mirama is an MNK Widow player,
Mm-hmm.
or hit scan player in general. His soldier's kind of nutty on the flank, but um, you know people like Parker, who we all know is really good with a controller, very good mechanical player. And we're not really going to make them MK or hand cam. People like Dankis, we're not going to make them hand cam,
Sure.
even though they've been suspected of it or said
Mm-hmm.
like, oh yeah, you mouse and keyboard. We're not really going to make them do it. But people like Mirama who openly say, yes, I'm mouse and keyboard, we're going to make you hand cam.
So basically, if I'm hearing this correctly, so the list is pretty much going to be people who most definitely, without a doubt, the community absolutely knows that they MNK, right?
Exactly.
So there,
Yeah.
so the list isn't really going to be like, well, this guy's done it in the past before, and I don't know, maybe that.
Yeah.
So it's
So,
not gonna.
like, yeah, Canadian McCree is a good example. I think that he has a Zim now,
Mhm.
but he hit 4,600 playing the same heroes that he plays with a mouse before with a controller. He's better with a controller than he is with a mouse. So we're not going to make him hand cam just because there's no need, really. I mean, you hit
Gotcha.
4,600 playing with a controller, you're already pretty much at the top. So
And I think there's a huge difference with this and other tournaments, is that I feel like this tournament is being organized by high level players such as yourself, and I feel like because of that you are able to better determine whether somebody is MNK for sure or not, because I feel like in other tournaments, people suspect MNK, but I mean, there was an incident in the past where, in a tournament, I think before Lame Sauce tournament,
Mhm.
that there was, that I think Dankis famously, was suspected of
Yeah.
of MNKing, and it ended up being the person who suspected him was a bronze player. Which, no offense to any
Yep.
bronze players out there, but if you see somebody with an exceptional aim, I mean, yeah, I guess if you're not in that tier, it might look like that person MNK's,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So I
Yeah.
feel like that is something beneficial to having high tier players also organized, is that you guys can be like, listen, I have MNK'd before, so I know what
Yeah.
that's like. You know, I
Yeah.
know what it's like. I know what the thing is for, because I've heard some very stupid MNK references before from
Yep.
other low tier players, so I can definitely see that, and I think that's great. I think that definitely sets you guys apart in the tournament scene for sure.
It's it's definitely hard to know which people I'm in K to, because I mean I've been told by a lot of people that because my aim is not good even with a mouse and like aim assist, it's still
Mm-hmm.
not good. Like I can't really play Widow very well. I'll get dumpstered by controller players. But just knowing the community and being in touch with the community, and that's part of why I wanted to have people that are very in touch with the community, like Scary Dragons and Blood Dust, Lame Sauce. They're all people that are very in touch with the community, and they know everybody like that's going to be in the tournament. They've played with them. I've been in their games. Like I know who they are.
Yeah.
And I think that that's just one of the best parts of having a community run tournament, is that the people that are running it know you. Like they've been in parties with you. They talk to you. They played against
Mm-hmm.
you. They played on your team. Sometimes they've even like stacked with you or grouped up with you, played scrims with you. Um, so I think that helps with determining MKs, determining everything just in general. So
Nice, nice. I mean, I think that's, yeah, perfect. That's exactly what I think the that should be done in those cases, right? It's just that, because I think that sometimes when organizations try to enforce those types of the same rules, because they're not in that community, they'll be like, oh well, they just don't know this person, right? Like they just
yeah,
don't understand, right?
yeah,
So I feel like that's a benefit that you guys are bringing to this tournament. Let's talk about the last point of the draft notes, and it's the prize itself. I think this is awesome. This is a great prize, because it's not something that's like something overly like, oh, this is not like
yeah.
crazy money or anything like that, but it's a cool prize to have.
It's nice. Yeah,
It's definitely nice. So the prize is Twitter headers or Twitch emotes from Moxie for the winning team. And if anybody hasn't seen Moxie stream, very amazing artist, does a lot of emotes, does a lot of art streams as well. Very, very good graphic designer in her own right. So she's an amazing person. You won't be let down by the prize if you so now let me get this straight. So she will do this for the entire team, right? Like she'll do
yeah,
this individually for everybody.
yeah. We were talking about it. We were like, do we just want to do bragging rights, because that's what we did for one of the
Sure.
other tournaments. I think the first one is when ZR Midnight won it. And basically it was I don't know if his entire team moved on because when he won it, and that was the prize, or if he was basically guaranteed to be captain for the next tournament. I don't really remember how we handled that the
Okay.
first tournament, but the second tournament was pretty much just bragging rights. But this time I was like, I want to do a little something without putting in money.
Sure.
And like that's why I pitched the idea of the Tensa picture, with the signed Tensa picture, which I still think that would be so awesome. But yeah, Moxie volunteered. She is one of the nicest people in the community. Um, and she was like, "Yeah, I'd love to donate some emotes or anything." And she does amazing work. I'm she does work for Red Shell. I know she does stuff for I believe Joystick and a couple other people. She just does amazing work for. And then yeah,
Absolutely. Shout outs to Moxie. Amazing artist, amazing streamer. I have yet to actually personally meet her, but I have spoken to her informally on Twitter and stuff like that. But definitely looking forward to seeing some of those prizes as well. Here's an idea. So and I'm offering this obviously for the MVP. If somebody were to select an MVP for the end, they are more than welcome to come on the show as a guest as the MVP. So if you
we'll have to
win,
make a poll. We're gonna
we'll
have to
we'll
make a poll, people.
absolutely we'll do something later on. So if people are interested about that, and they haven't gotten it, even if they've been interviewed already. If you have the winning team, and I don't know if somebody's
Rev it
gonna,
up!
we'll work out the details, but that could be one of the other incentives too. If you want to come on the show and get interviewed and stuff like that. So we'll talk. We'll share some more details about that, because I just thought about that. I thought it would be a great thing to like add on there as well. So
It would be fun.
yeah, for sure. All right, cool. So we got that talked about. We talked about the tournament in general and stuff like that. I think obviously it's an awesome idea. Let's talk about the last thing that I had mentioned to you before in some of the questions. So recently, you personally have been very vocal about the state of the game and stuff like that. There's a lot of people on Twitter, a lot of people who have played the game, high tier players, low tier players, all types of players have mentioned that this is a dead game. Overwatch is a dead game. What's your opinion on this type of movement from the people? And, what do you have to say about it?
It's a hard question to answer, and it's like, I don't know. It's just very controversial also, just because
Sure.
people care about the game so much, and they've always cared about, like, there's been I don't know, like Call of Duty, there's a strong community for Call of Duty. There's a strong community for, like, Gears of War has a very, like, small, but, like, it's a close community kind of thing. Um, but with Overwatch, it's a lot of people that love hating the game, where they love the game, but there's just so many things wrong with it that need to get fixed to make it back to where it was before. You know, I loved the game when I started playing it in season 3, 4, and in the earlier seasons, but I didn't know enough about the game to fully appreciate everything that I had, I guess. Um, I remember Hook 1.0, the original Roadhog Hook, just being completely broken.
Oh yeah,
Um,
those are dark days.
yeah, that was those were fun times,
Although I'm
but
pretty sure people like Vinny loved it.
oh my gosh, Vinny and ZR with their piggy, man. Oh my god,
Yeah.
I can't
I,
even imagine.
I remember like hard blue clips back in the day, like
Yeah.
pre NRG hard blue, where he would hook people across the map through 5 walls, and like
Yep.
that is
And
insane.
you still see piggies on the flank. Ricky
Yeah,
and ZR the other day was pulling out the piggy and just farming, but he's one of the hardest hardest heroes to play right now, and that's kind of like, I guess the struggle is that they're heroes that everyone loves to play, like
hmm
Pig, that you can't play because Goats is just, if you don't run Goats, and like, it doesn't matter too much, anything below like 4.1, you can pretty much
sure,
win with any comp. But
absolutely,
once
yeah.
you get like to the higher levels, like it's Goats every single map. Like, I had a scrim, the East Coast stack. Well, my East Coast stack versus the West Coast stack with Hopes and versus Sham,
Okay,
and it was just Goats every single map. And people, I don't think, really enjoy playing Goats when you're lower SR, but I think it gets more enjoyable the higher you go, just because every mistake you make, for the most part, gets punished. You have to save bubbles for the right times. But I think the reason that people think it's a dead game is just because everyone's attitude is just become not to care. You know, you play on 3,800 account, 3,900 accounts, you get in 3,800, 3,700, 3,900 lobbies. Sometimes you'll get into 4K, 4.1 if you're lucky. If you're sitting on 4.3 accounts, right? So I have 2 Smurfs that are sitting around 4.3, and one of my friends who is she's 4 point or she's like 3.9, gave her one of my Smurfs. We still got 3.8 games. We're both on 4,300 accounts. We just got off of 3,800 accounts. And we're getting in the same lobbies that we were getting in before. The SR, no matter how high you go, it doesn't matter. You're going to get 5 masters on your team. You're going to get 4 masters on your team if you're in a duo. It just doesn't matter. Like, you if you're sitting on 43 accounts, you'll get a team full of 3,500, 3,600 players, and then you're expected to carry that.
sure, sure,
And after a while, it just gets tiring to the point where you're not really getting better at the game. You're still playing against the same like 3,900 players, even if you're like 4,400 and you've only been playing against 30. You could solo queue to 4,400 just playing against 3,900 players. But then once you get it in like stack versus stack, where it's 4400 player versus, or 4400 team versus 4400 team, you're just gonna have no idea what's going on because you've been you got to 4400, but you got so used to playing against 3900 players that you're not actually a 4400 player. You just know how to carry master game.
Yeah.
And like, you get so disappointed when you have one teammate that, you know, is plays Moira. Moira's a throw hero. Please stop playing the hero. She's not good. I don't care if you don't have thumbs. Play triple support. If you don't have thumbs, just stop playing Moira in my games. But you know, it's just very frustrating. Like, even I'm getting like a little annoyed right now just thinking about, like, you get into these games where you have to carry one person or somebody that's really bad at the game. And there was a clip from a Scary Dragon stream the other day that he was like, "You are a season 12 diamond, like, oh, you are ass." Like, he was mad. But like, that's just, you care so much about the game.
Yeah, I think it was who was it that said that in his, because it wasn't Scary, it was a Word Shatter. Right, Word Shatter was saying that. Yeah.
You just you care about the game so much, and then you just keep getting let down, or you keep getting frustrated to the point where you're just like, I just don't care anymore, and that's why the game is dead.
That's why you have to take a field trip to their career profile.
Yeah, let me take a field trip to your career profile real quick. That clip, I watched it like 10 times.
Yeah, listen, that was a really good clip. I had a lot of fun with that clip. Definitely very entertaining.
I related to it heavily. But
I mean, you know, and I think it isn't lost on anybody else either, because I feel like obviously you guys are high tier players and stuff like that. I'm not as high tier. I'm up there in like high masters and stuff like that. Sometimes low GM, but like I also feel the same, because I think I have a different perspective from a lot of people. I think now, you know, the state of the game is bad in a sense, because there's a lot of masters and low GM players who don't realize that, like, they don't realize kind of like their place, right? They're like, oh well, you know, I got to 4200, so you know, I'm definitely, you know, definitely that good, even though they might really just be a 3800 player that kind of was able to climb a little bit more and was able to do stuff. I mean, I
got lucky.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I've peaked at 4150, but I don't play at that level normally. Like, I'm lucky to be there if I am at sometimes. So I think it's just that. But the difference is I feel like I know that, but a lot of people who play in my tier don't know that, you know. And I think that's the biggest difference, is that, you know, when I do get into high tier games where there are like 42, 43, 4400s or whatever, or I know those people are like, oh, I know that person. You know, and they say, hey, we should do this, you know, and then there's master players that are like, oh, I don't want to do that. I want to do this. And it's like, come on, dude. Like, clearly they've been up there. You should at least listen to what they got to say, you know.
And there are a lot of people that are high SR that, you know, they just see a master in their game and they're instantly just like, go Lucio or go Moira, go, like, basically something that has like a lower skill floor, I guess. It's not, you can't really, like, in a high tier game, if you don't beat it the right time, you lose the game pretty much. Like, and so Lucy is a very hard hero to play when you get higher SR. But, you know, when I'm,
I've noticed.
we've been in a 5 stack or something when, you know, we're queuing on, we have like a 4500, 4400 overall stack, right? We put our random on Lucio or Brig, a hero that you can't really screw up too bad, but, you know, we can tell you like how to play the hero. And, you know, we'll try to explain, like, okay, this is when you need to beat. Don't beat if they, or like, we're gonna say beat if they just use like 2 or 3 ults, just so that we can go into the next fight and we have a beat drop till we just delete their Reinhardt or something. And they just don't listen, or they're just like, dude, shut up, like, and it's just like frustrating. Like, we're trying to help you and like teach you. You can take something you learned that we just told you and take it into your next game and try to do that. And that's something that's really fun, I guess.
Absolutely. And here's the thing too, because I've been in those moments. I've played with, you know, I played with Delir, and I've played with Worst Shatter and Dexento and stuff like that. And there's a lot of times, personally, I mean, I will definitely admit this, that, you know, it's hard to determine for a player of my elo. It's hard to determine sometimes in the high tier games, when do I have to beat, because at that point it gets really crucial, and the timing for a lot of those situations is hard, right? So, you know, my experience has always been like, you know, people who are a little high tier, they'll be like, you know, Dazzle, beat now, or do this, or, you know, they'll give me instructions. And I think that's just how you become a better player, right? I think that's it. I personally feel like I've become a better player just basically from that, from being able to
Yeah.
play with high tier players who be like, yeah, you need to do this now and this, and then I listen. And I think there's so much pride in a lot of this lower elo players that they just don't want to do that, which I really don't understand.
Yeah, there are a lot of the master players that just have egos for being in masters when
I
it's like there are a lot of people that just got there just because they were lucky and somehow are still in masters that you're just, and there are even people in GM that you're just like, how did you get to this rank playing like this every single game? Like they're just known L's. I mean, like I'm not trying to call anybody out, but Redwood Chair, like I don't know how he is always Grandmaster. He's like a gold hoarder, but he's in
yeah.
Grandmaster all the time, and I don't know how.
And I've been in games with him, and he also doesn't like. I don't know. I feel like he doesn't listen to people either. Like he.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
it's a rough
understand.
time.
Listen, I as a lower elo player, I feel your guys' frustration, because if I were
Yeah,
in your shoes at the same time, I'd be like, listen, I know by experience how to do this, and when people don't do this, it's frustrating because like you guys had got to put your pride aside for a second and just realize you don't know how to do this. Period. Like you
yeah,
just have to, and we're trying to teach you. And I think the only bad thing that happens is that when your frustration gets to the point where like you become toxic about it, because clearly it's a frustrating thing.
right.
Sometimes there's no way around it. You'll
Yeah,
have people like Worst Shadow who have to take field trips to your career profile because they're
yeah,
so annoyed at that point, right?
yeah,
But I get it. I get the frustration for like being like, dude, like come on.
yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, and master players or low GM players or people who don't take that into account, they'll just realize, they'll just be like, oh well, I don't care what this person has to say, like I think that they're wrong, as opposed to just being open-minded. Sometimes they'll just won't think about it, basically because they're just like, oh, I'm better than that, or they said it in a mean way, so
yeah.
I'm not gonna listen to it. So
It's something that just people in general, like you look at people who are the best at any game, anywhere, no matter what sport, and if you're like your coach tells you what to do, he tells you what you did wrong. I mean, like we played a game yesterday in a 5 stack, and it was our first game on. We weren't really paying too much attention, but we just got absolutely destroyed, and we
right.
were like, we sat in a party for like 10 minutes, just basically like why did we just do that? Like what? Like and just running through like, yeah, that was an idiot thing to do. Like you shouldn't have done
Sure.
that. Or like just running through like stuff like that. Like it's not just like we like high tier players yell at masters just because we want to yell at you. Like I remember Tensa. I somehow was in Diamond, and I got Tensa in one of my games like season 3 or 4, and he was just yelling at our team the entire time. We first point held, but he was yelling at
I
our
mean,
team the entire time.
I don't
Like
blame him though. Sometimes, like
but like yeah, but I mean like if somebody's trying to take the time out of their day to tell you what to do, or they come to game chat to tell you like, okay, well this is what you got to do, like this is what we need you to do, you should probably listen. I mean like
yeah,
if
yeah,
they're a jerk about it, like just turn off your mic. It doesn't really matter, but just listen basically, because there
yeah,
could be important things, you know. You got to trank to say keep your Zarya up, like you got to trank to keep your Reinhardt up. If you keep him up,
sure.
we can win this fight. We can turn the fight.
And I think that's
And
the mindset that needs to change in Overwatch, right? Is the fact that like, listen, you're masters, you're not a god, right? Like you,
it's not even just for masters. It's like
sure,
everybody in general. Like no matter what tier you are. Like I was 4400 and I'm still learning about the game. Like I'm still learning
absolutely,
something every single time I like fire up the game. Every time I get in a game, I'm still learning something. You know,
sure,
I feed a lot on Diva sometimes, or I'll stagger really hard on Diva. Okay, well now I don't stagger as much on Diva, and I try not to feed, but you know it happens. But like you just gotta have the like mash plays, especially. You just have to have the mindset. Just well, how am I gonna get better at the game? And like it's competitive mode for a reason. If you don't want to try or get better at the game, go play quick play. Quick play is actually pretty fun. I've learned that recently. But
yeah. I mean, I totally agree. It's I think it's the difference between being willing to learn and just opening yourselves to the idea that you don't know everything, right? You
Yeah.
don't know everything. And like, I think there was a time that when I was for a long time, I was a hard stuck diamond for a long time. And, I started, getting in touch with higher level players, people who were in GMs and top 500 and even masters. And, at one point I was just like, listen, I'm bad. Just tell me what to do. I, I'm gonna listen. I'm gonna try my best to get better, and that's when I saw a change. That's
Yeah.
it. It's absolutely the thing that allowed me to climb. It was just being able to have an open mind and just being like, listen, But maybe that's just me. Maybe it's just like, listen, I'm an old man. I play one character. Okay, I'm trying to get good at this one character. Let me just be able to just learn this one thing.
Right.
And I think that's what it is. It's just people have to be more open minded and just being able to be willing to
Yeah.
listen. Yeah.
It's an important thing that I don't know. A lot of people just overlook it. I guess is just not wanting to listen to whoever it is. I mean,
Absolutely.
they're a reason that Sham and Hopes are both at the very top of the leaderboards, and that's how they were last season. Is because I can speak. I'm speaking towards them just because I played a lot against Sham stack and I played a lot
Mhm.
with Hopes' stack. Is because they're two people that when they're on those teams, they're calling out everything. They're telling your team what to do, what all like we're
Sure.
kind of calling out together, like, okay, what else do they have? But Hopes is the one that is like, this is where we need to be playing. This is what we need to accomplish this fight. If they use this ult, this is how we're going to react to that.
Got
And
it.
Sham does the exact same thing. If you listen to their comms, that's how it like team is based around like Sham's call out. That's the reason those people are able to climb so much is because they can tell people that might not have any idea what they're doing. They can tell them this is what we need to do. This is like when you need to use your ult. Um, and that's why those people can climb so easily is because they just have the shot calling ability that not many people have in the community. I think there are maybe 4 people, if that, in the community that will be able to shot call at the highest level,
Sure.
and one of them is in contenders right now. So, like, like
Yeah.
you know, um, but yeah, I think that's something that being able to know what you're doing or being able to tell people what to do is definitely a great way to climb. And when you look at people have videos up, I watched one of Space's streams that had how to climb an SR, how to get better at the game,
Mhm.
and one of the first things is ult economy and being able to manage or like know what ult tracking, I should say,
Sure.
being able to track what enemy the other team has because you end up learning, okay, well this is how we're gonna have to go into this fight, and also learning why you do stuff, not so much okay beat now. Well, why should I beat now?
Yeah,
Why should I
yeah,
use this ult?
exactly. It definitely teaches you how to, because you can just be a bot and just be like, you want me to beat? All right, I'm beating.
Yeah,
But at the end of the day, like, and the people who have played with me, people who are high tier players who have played with me, everybody knows that, especially Lucios, because I always try to keep in touch with high tier Lucios and stuff like that.
right.
I'll message them afterwards. I was like, what did I do wrong? What can I do better? Like, why
Mhm.
why did this work here? Why did this not work here? Like, I ask a lot of questions just because I'm open to the knowledge. I want to be able to get
Yeah.
better, and and I'm all about the grind itself. So if people just have to lend themselves to that, right?
Yep. And I think that's one of the biggest things, at least that I respect, is that if somebody messaged me asking me, okay, well, what can I do better, or
Sure.
they ask me like, can you spectate me and just tell me what I'm doing wrong? That's
Yeah.
just something that I respect so much because you're going out of your way to ask somebody that, uh, you know, eh, you're putting your ego aside or whatever it is to ask for help or whatever. Like
Absolutely.
that's
It's
just how you get
it,
better.
and it's making the ecosystem better, right? Because at the end of the day, on ladder, you have to play with some of these players, especially if they're closer to your rank. I know a
Hmm.
lot of people who are 45, 4600, and eventually if they solo queue or whatever they do, they will eventually meet somebody who is 3800, 3900, or
Yeah.
4200, or whatever the case may be. And those people, if they took the time to do that, to learn from others and stuff like that, then when it comes to that game, they'll be like, oh yeah, that guy, he taught me, like, okay, well, let's
Yeah.
It's for like that's how it works. It's a better ecosystem. You teach people how to be better, the games will get better.
Yep, hopefully, but
I
I
mean,
don't think everybody
ideally,
has that. Yeah, in a perfect world,
in a
in a
perfect
utopia,
world, yeah,
that's how it works. But then there are other people that just don't come into game chat that are 4,300 when they get in these lobbies and just don't
absolutely.
talk. But I don't know. I think that I've tried putting like I went out of my way and I bought a mic when I wanted to decided, okay, well, I really want to climb this season,
Hmm.
and that was a couple seasons ago, and I got a mic so I can go to game chat and talk to my team, and I just think that that's as a master player going into team chat and just listening to somebody that is a higher SR. You don't even have to turn your mic on, but just
No, yeah,
listening is
just
the biggest. That's you'll climb.
yeah,
Just listen.
just put the voice line understood. You're
Yeah,
like just
understood.
like yeah, that's it. Like hey, do this, and you'll be like understood. It's like all right,
Yeah.
that guy gets it. All right,
Nano
let's
me, nano me, nano me, nano me, nano me, nano me.
exactly.
Like, please, but nope, they don't nano you. Like, get insta killed. Like,
Yeah. So that's that. If anybody takes anything away from this this stream or this interview, that should be the PSA is to just be open to learning. All right.
be
I
open to
know.
learn.
Be open to learn.
Master players don't get an ego. You have
Yes.
plenty of time to improve, and if you have an ego from being in masters, get an ego once you hit top 10. You're allowed an
Yeah.
ego when you hit like top 10 without a mouse
Absolutely.
and keyboard.
Absolutely. Well, listen. On that note, I think that's a perfect way to end this episode. I think that that was a very good discussion. I feel like it needed to happen as well. Absolutely, guys. The tournament, make sure to look out for it. I think the best way is for somebody to be in tune on to keep track on Twitter, right? So if you want, plug in your Twitter or where people can get information from. If how can people get in touch with the draft and stuff like that?
Yeah, so it's the pinned tweet on _Tracer. That's the Twitter. So just go to my pinned tweet and you just click the link and you can sign up right there. That's all you need to do.
Absolutely. Well, listen, it's been great having you on the show. I definitely had a great discussion. I love all the stuff that you're doing with the tournament. Keep doing it. Obviously, if you need anything from me particularly, let me know. I'm so excited about this, and even if you don't, I'll definitely be watching. This is gonna be an exciting tournament. I'm looking forward to seeing everything that happens. Like as always, at the end of each of these episodes, I like to raid a particular streamer. I believe Leaf CA is on there.
Leaf.
So we're gonna raid Leaf real quick, fellow Lucio player. So we'll definitely raid him. So we'll do some of that, guys. Let them know that you came from Off the Wall. And once again, everybody, have a good day. I'll see you next week. Say bye to the people.
Thank you guys for listening. Sign up for the tournament.
All right, see you guys.
Alright, it's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. F it up. Oh, I'm in the groove.